to you once more from my motorhome, and I'm going to be talking about the trial of OJ Simpson once more. As always, if you've got any questions, then please feel free to ask them, or even share any information that you may wish to share on this subject, because it's a subject everybody has got an opinion of. So yesterday I talked about the murders themselves, and today what I thought I would do is to speak about the consequences of the murders. When I decided to do this, I didn't have any idea of how long it would take, and sort of take things in bite-sized chunks. Then what I'll do today is I'll talk about the immediate aftermath and up until the time when OJ gets arrested. And anyway, so immediately following the murders, once the police realized that the murders had taken place, the LAPD sent 4 detectives to the home of OJ Simpson, Tom Langer, Philip Van Atter, Mark Furman, and Ron Phillips. And so they went there, and so they buzzed the door. No response, obviously. OJ had gone to Chicago. And they also they noticed how badly parked his car was, the Bronco, which was sort of at an odd angle, which seemed strange. But then they noticed there was blood on the vehicle. Now, the police, knowing what had happened to Nicole and Ron, who was obviously, I don't think they realized by the time who Ron was yet. And they, seeing blood, they had every reason to suspect that something might also have happened to OJ. And I think that their action in scaling the wall, as Mark Furman got over the wall and then he sort of let the others in. And this was absolutely the right thing to do in the circumstances. And it's very easy to criticize things later. Now, if you're going to believe the defense argument, it was that these 4, whom I believe had never worked together in the past, they got together and they decided at that moment that they were going to frame OJ Simpson for this, and they were going to frame him because of the color of his skin. I mean, the argument that they should do this like this, particularly in the past where the police had been called out, wasn't these people, of course, had been called out, but the police had done nothing to the calls out for domestic violence. But now the 4 of them are getting together and they're going to frame him for a capital offense, and which, according to what Vincent Bugliosi says, under California law, can, if one fakes evidence in a capital offense, then that person can also receive capital punishment. I don't think it's ever been actually used as that, and I'm just repeating what Vincent Bugliosi said, and I don't know if that is the correct interpretation or it isn't. But anyway, so they got onto OJ's property without a warrant, of course. I mean, that stands to reason. How were they going to get a warrant in times like that? And they did speak to Kato Kalin, and he then said about the banging on the wall that he'd heard during the previous night, and it was then that the bloody glove was discovered by Mark Furman, and this was determined to have been, or at least it looked like, the one which was also at the murder scene. And so in this case now, it did seem rather strange that relatively good evidence that OJ might be responsible for these killings. Anyway, so they rang him, OJ, in Chicago, and there's one or two different accounts of what OJ actually said. I believe in that, which I haven't seen, but OJ, People versus OJ Simpson, I think then there's something that's not quite happened there. OJ didn't ask, and this is the important thing, didn't ask if the kids. He asked if the children had seen the body, but he didn't seem to show that much. He said he seemed very concerned, but then again, I mean, how do people react if somebody says a relative has died? I mean, I suppose everybody does it differently, and but they did. I get the impression that they thought at that moment that he wasn't acting as he should be. Now, he came back, and you've probably seen the film of him. He comes back, he sort of puts in handcuffs, and then they take the handcuffs off him. He is interrogated at the police station. You hear this as on the internet. There's somebody called, I think his name is Brian Heiss, and he has a lot on the OJ trial, and on his account, he's got this interview between the police and OJ Simpson, and it seems to me that as though the police are utterly in awe of who they have got in front of them, and OJ's answers are suspect to say the least. I mean, they note the cut on the finger. How did this happen to him? And he sort of over the period of time, he changed from various reasons how he actually got this cut. Now, he did voluntarily give blood, and now we have the next part of the plot that the defense then OJ voluntarily gave them his blood, and then they obviously find a tiny bit of that blood which appears to be missing, but that's late. That comes later. OJ had a lawyer. His name was Vice. Oh, I've forgotten the name of his lawyer. Anyway, Visacker or something like that. And he was an entertainment lawyer. He died about 2 or 3 years ago, 2021, I think he died. And but he looked at it and he said no, he wasn't going to deal. He clearly believed that OJ was guilty, and it was a lost cause. And so OJ then got in contact with Robert Shapiro, and it was Robert Shapiro who then got the team of lawyers, the dream team, so to speak. He put them together, and now the LAPD had to do some DNA testing, which DNA testing was then totally new, and it may seem strange now because today, I mean, 30 years later, but today it's the first thing you think of. But it was they had to do some testing, and it took a few days for the tests to come back. Meanwhile, OJ went to stay at the home of his friend Robert Kardashian, and Shapiro also noticed that OJ looked a bit mentally unstable. Now, anyway, by the 17th of June, the police had realized that OJ had to be charged based on the DNA evidence. And so the police told Shapiro on the early morning of the 17th that OJ had to actually come in. And Shapiro asked for a little bit extra time, so the police asked him to be in at 11 o'clock, and Shapiro asked for an extra hour, and the police agreed. Now, this may seem absolutely ridiculous. You've got somebody here who's accused of brutally murdering 2 people 5 days previously, and he's asked to come in, asked voluntarily, just please come to the police station on a potentially capital offense, and he then well, I don't know if we can make it at 11. Can he do it at 12? And the police agree. I mean, it seems totally actually ridiculous. The thing was this, that OJ didn't actually turn up, but he did, however, leave 3 letters. And there was so he disappeared, and the police then said that where is he? He hasn't turned up. They still gave him a little bit extra time, but despite this, they put out an all points bulletin on him, so meaning he had to be stopped. Now at around 13:50 in the afternoon, this is when the APB went out. In the meantime, Robert Kardashian's got OJ's letter, and about 1700 he called a press conference. And I shall read to you the what has been called the suicide, or at least part of the suicide letter that he left. And if this doesn't point to guilt, I really honestly don't know why. And this was not brought up at the trial. So, to whom it may concern, first, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her, I always have, and I always will. If we had a problem, it was because I loved her so much. Recently, we came to understand that for now we're not right for each other, at least for now. Despite our love, we're different, and that's why we mutually agreed to go our separate ways. It was tough splitting for a second time, but we both knew it was for the best inside. I had no doubt that in the future we'd be close friends and more. Unlike what's been written in the press, Nicole and I had a great relationship and most of our lives together, like all long-term relationships. We had a few ups and downs. I took the heat New Year's 1989 because that's what I was supposed to do. I did not plead no contest for any other reason but to protect our privacy, and it was advised that this would end the press hype. So what I think he's now doing is immediately setting himself up. He's trying to explain his relationship with his wife, but he's bringing up the subject of the beating, and on New Year's Day 1989, he'd hit his wife. The police were called, and he was sentenced to do a course, which he did then over anger management or something, and then he did this over the phone, which is probably not the way it should be done normally. But to me, that he's now blaming, I think he's getting on to blaming his wife. Now, next bit, I don't want to belabor knocking the press, but I can't believe what's being said. Most of it's been totally made up. I know you have a job to do, but as a last wish, please, please, please leave my children in peace. Their lives will be tough enough. Now, okay, first time he mentions that this is a last, and he's gonna do it again. Last wish. So that, to me, again, suicide. Then he he mentions a number of people who he wants to thank, among whom is Bobby Kardashian. He also has a golfing buddy, Alan, and he sends him his. I don't think that was me, but I did actually used to play this golf game on the computer. Well, a few years earlier, so it could have been me, couldn't it? And then, okay, now he goes on to the ladies in his life. Marguerite, that was his first wife. Thanks for the early years. We had some fun. Paula was Barbieri. Was he just started to date her? I think she dropped him that day. In any case, Paula, what can I say? You are special. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have. We're not going to have our chance. God brought you to me. Now I see. As I leave, you'll be in my thoughts. As I leave. So where's he going? I think of my life, I think I've done most of the right things, so why do I end up like this? I can't go on, no matter what the outcome. People will look and point. I can't take that. I can't subject my children to that. This way they can move on and go on with their lives. So he's pulling himself out of their lives so to do a favor for them. Please, if I've done anything worthwhile in my life, let my kids live in peace from you, the press. I've had a good life. I'm proud of how I lived. My mama taught me to do unto others. I've treated people the way I want to be treated. I've always tried to be up and helpful. So why is this happening? I'm sorry for the Goldman family. I know how much it hurts. That might have been a genuine thing. Maybe at this moment he realized that one of the people killed was an innocent victim. Nicole and I had a good life together. All this press talk about a rocky relationship was no more than what every long-term relationship experiences. All her friends will confirm that I've been totally loving and understanding of what she's been going through. Well, I've known a lot of people in relationships, and I've been in one or two myself, and I don't think they normally end up this way, but maybe that's me. But now, he says a vital part, at times I have felt like a battered husband or boyfriend. So he's blaming her. It's her fault. But I loved her. Make that clear to everyone. And now I'd like to take whatever it took to make it work. Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think the real OJ and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I've helped yours. Peace and love, OJ. Now, Robert Kardashian had to actually read this out. Now, how he managed to do it at the press conference, keeping a straight face, is... I mean, I don't mean to say it's funny, but it's clearly, absolutely pointing to guilt. Now, I know that sometimes people can feel guilty because they didn't do something. Oh, it's my fault that that happened. If only I had done this, that, or the other. Yeah, these things can happen. If if only I hadn't, if only I hadn't divorced, then she might have been living with me, and she wouldn't have been there, and this wouldn't have happened. There is guilt in circumstances like that, which one can understand. But in this case, to me, this is an utterly clear case of admission. Anyway, Robert Shapiro, came on and said the television, OJ to hand himself over. Where was he? Nobody knew, but he was known that he was out with Al Cowling, and he was in a white Ford Bronco. At a 1751, Al Cowling did a 911 call. They could then trace the location of where the call was made from. And then he had a mobile phone. Mobile systems in the United States didn't work very well for a good 10 years after this, in my opinion. But at least he was able to do that, and that was thanks to that, they actually tracked him, and they had this slow speed chase. And now you saw that on the television. What beats me is this, though. You got all these people out, and they've all got these signs: "Go, Jay, go," or something else. Don't spill the juice, or something like that. And how did they have time to make these signs? I mean, what were they doing? Sitting by the television, waiting for something to suddenly appear. And then they got. Not only that, there were people actually rang him up. There was a sports announcer, Pete something on Arbogast. He rang up and was able to talk to OJ. It seems so unreal. If you'd actually seen a film about, and this was happening, you just wouldn't believe it. Oh, that's daft. And not only that, the way that the cars actually appeared, that they stopped live broadcasts of all sorts of things. I'm trying to think as well, how did I manage to see this? Because where I was in Poland at the time, it would have been 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Now I get up very early, but then I used to have to work until quite late, and so I really, maybe how I managed to see it, I don't know. The thing is, often I would actually go to sleep and then I'd wake up about 2 in the morning, and then I wouldn't go back to sleep again until 5, something like that. And I suspect that might have been the case then. Yeah, so what a phony letter. Indeed. Anyway, eventually, so he drives back home. He parks his vehicle. He gets Al Cowling gets out. OJ's still in there, but still he manages to negotiate somehow. He goes into his home. He has a glass of orange juice. I think he spoke to his mother or something over the phone, and then he handed himself in. And the whole thing, it just seems that the police were going absolutely and utterly outside of their way to give him everything they wanted, and I just cannot understand why none of this was presented in court. It's clearly had a disguise kit, well, rather amateurish one, sort of thing he probably bought in a sort of a joke shop or something. But he had a fair amount of cash on him. He did $8,000. Seems like a change of clothing. Well, lots of people have change of clothing on them in the cars. Maybe that isn't so unusual. He had his passport on him, which, okay, I carry my passport around with me most of the time. But I'm in Europe. In the United States, I believe that is quite unusual. Anyway. Al Cowlings actually was booked on suspicion of harboring a suspect, and he was held on $250,000 bail. Right, so what I'll do is I shall leave it there for today, and I think what I'll do is I'll come back onto the trial itself at another day, so I can break this down into sort of manageable chunks for me. Well, thanks very much for being here today. I shall continue with this story and my opinions and how I saw it 30 years ago from being somebody watching it on television in Europe. So thanks for the moment. Thanks for being with me. And goodbye for now, and see you tomorrow at the same time. Bye for now.